What did you say?
She said, we're about to put this banner up. Make sure you don't trip up here. This is your thesaurus you were using. Is that right? Egregious.
Deliver that.
Did you know all those words?
Yeah, of course. St Kevin's education.
Don't take this the wrong way. A lot of people at opposition clubs...
Generally, I'm going to have to take this the wrong way.
When the media or the club ask you to do something, no is a perfectly acceptable answer.
And I'll be honest, we probably weren't on great terms then.
I'll be honest, you're probably right.
You just do all Bucks' dirty work and it doesn't get any dirtier than dealing.
Yeah, that's right. It's like Marbo, the vibe.
Jared said I can get a co-host for the night. Would you like to come in and do the show with me, Bucks?
I think I got something on that night. No, I'm here as husband to my wife. Make sure she has a good night, mate. That's primary focus, is it not?
No, it's not.
Remember the dress, mate. Have a look at that red carpet and tell me that that's not a focus. I'm in trouble now.
I missed the response, but was it?
It was a combination. I think it was
hands in the air,
and then really hard slap.
Yeah. Did you look at the pool?
No, we put a black hoodie over him and marched him sort of through it.
See, it has been fun.
We got on
It's
well.
the harder nights. Chris Scott, welcome.
Thanks, Jared.
Nathan Buckley, hello.
Chris.
How are we?
Good, good. You've enjoyed part of it, haven't you?
A lot of it.
Absolutely. How much went to the scrap heap though?
No, that was the only times we could.
bits.
That was the only times we could find you
See-
smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Good
that
call.
sort of thing.
Here's another one.
What did you take out of the day most?
Look, I woke up in the morning just a little bit shitty with the world. You know, it's grand final day and you're not a part of it, and we're, it's the ultimate part of the day of the year and you're not there. So, but then my 8-year-old jumped on me and said, "Dad, it's grand final day," and I reckon that's what it was. I mean, and in the end, it was a magnificent occasion. The fact that the compelling stories of both sides, the continued success of the Sydney, and the Dogs' rise over the last couple of years, and then the game itself was never going to disappoint because they're well matched. There was always going to be a well matched contest. Look, it was a remarkable game, and I don't reckon Sydney laid down. I just reckon Dogs ground them out, and it was a fantastic match.
I should have said cracked.
Yeah.
Not lay down. Cracked, thank you.
Yeah.
Try and keep the language down too, please, Nathan.
What did you get out of it? What did you take out of it, Chris?
The Bulldogs are going to be a good team for a long time. And I think Kieran Jack was on the money afterwards when he said we're not going anywhere either. And there is that. You've got to sort of put aside that your professionalism a little bit, because really, I mean, if I was going to do what I felt like doing, I just wouldn't have gone at all, because you just want to sulk for a little bit longer. But it's our professional obligation to be there. So there was that side of it. They're both very good teams. As Buck said, they're well matched. They both are outstanding around the ball. But the theatre of it all, and even I was sitting in a pretty neutral part of the ground, I would have thought, or in theory it should have been neutral, but virtually everyone was going for the Dogs. So I don't think I got as caught up in it, or as much as most people. But
Of course, to borrow Bucks' word, which I'm not going to say, if he was feeling that, I reckon you were feeling worse when you woke up on grand final day. Yeah,
we had a tough week last week, and you start to feel a little bit better, and Saturday didn't really help. They're getting so close. The overwhelming feeling is one of the disappointment for the moment, but the realisation that you have to work so hard just to give yourself that one chance again. And that's really what it is, in my view. Modern footy, because it is so competitive, it's about doing as many things as you can well to give yourself the opportunity. And then from there you need things to go your way a little bit. But I think even though when you look through the other teams, it can be a little bit of a depressing exercise, because you look through and you think, well, who's going to really drop off next year? I haven't got too many in that category.
You only see teams actually improving.
Yeah, I mean, there are
tough comp. It doesn't get any easier.
I want to ask you both, and I don't know how I'm going to answer this, and I certainly don't know how you're going to answer this. People look at Luke Beveridge as a coach, and I say, God, what has he got? He's got something. Is it special? Do you look at it and say, God, how's his connection with his players? Because there's the tactical side of footy, the emotional side. Do you look at him and say, geez, I I've got to work on that, or I've got to work on that. Do you look at it like that in any way?
Oh, to an extent, but it's really hard to see the whole picture. In fact, we know that it's tip of the iceberg stuff. The stuff that everyone sees above the surface is the stuff that actually doesn't matter so much. It's the stuff that we don't know about that they would protect very closely that makes the difference. But I think any successful team has a group of, not just the players, but the whole organisation who are united and working for each other, and they're clearly very motivated, and he's played a big part in that.
He's an emotional man, Bucks. We see that, and he's the kind of guy, and we discussed this on radio today, he's the kind of guy who's really seems to be happy and carefree to say, hey, this is who I am, and if you think it's emotional, I don't give a stuff. People perceive you to be a sort of a regimented, clinical guy, and I don't think that's true behind, the tip of the iceberg. Do you look at him and say, right, that's interesting the way he goes about this? Do you try and pick up something from
Yeah, I don't legislate to what I read about it being fact. You observe, and then you can only believe half of what you see as well. But
why is that? Why do you say that for?
Oh, because once again, you don't get the full snapshot.
But what do you see when you look at Luke Beveridge and the interaction?
Well, I thought he was remarkably composed and had a quite serious demeanour up on the stage compared to some coaches I've seen up there. He didn't smile as much as I thought he might, because he was clearly really enjoying the moment. But I think the thing I take out of it is that he is his own man, and the advice that I've always had is, if you're going to be a good coach, you've got to do it. You've got to be yourself, and you've got to do it your way. And clearly, Bevo's doing that. One thing you will say is when you finish at the top of the tree, generally everyone's going to look quite favourably on what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I know that.
And the Bulldogs, Luke Beveridge and all of the players deserve that opportunity, and they've earned it. And so,
what about
well
done
to them.
Yeah,
but I still think John Longmire's a fantastic coach.
Yeah, I'm not.
And the Swans are a fantastic club, and the guys that have been able to get through to finals and then prelims. There's some pretty good teams that weren't there. That doesn't mean that the coaches are any less.
No, I accept that. I'm not putting anyone down.
I think Bevo has been himself, and he's coached to be himself, and he's got remarkable success in a really short time. 11 seasons as a coach or an assistant coach since starting at St Bede's for 7 flags. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. If he continues on that vein, well then.
He's got something, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
He's got something.
But to your point, I think it'd be crazy not to look at other coaches and other clubs and even other sports and say, well, what do you like and what could we try to emulate to an extent? But the biggest mistake you can make is be inauthentic and be a poor version of them.
Yeah.
You're better off, being who you are and doing that really well. But I'm interested. What do you think? What should we be looking at?
That's a good. I'm glad. I listened to you all year, not all year, it's not a negative when you say, we just can't get the consistency of effort. Whereas this guy's got a team of 9 players under 40 games getting consistent effort in the 4 most important weeks of the year. How is he able to tap into the individual psychology, the collective, the spirit, all those words that you guys all talk about? How is a man able to do that 7 times? He's got something.
The interesting part.
I'd love to know what it is. And I was hoping that you guys might be able to tell me, or tell us, what you think it is.
Yeah, well, I was fascinated that the last couple of rounds of the home and away season, from memory, they lost to Fremantle.
Over there.
And they had another poor one there. They actually went into the final series in pretty average form, didn't they?
Really worried.
And then went and beat West Coast by 50 points, who are in red hot form. Played 2. They beat Adelaide in Adelaide and GWS in Sydney, and then lost to the Bulldogs by 50 points. So whether that was orchestrated and they didn't think they could improve their ladder position and they sort of deliberately...
Gutsy coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're the things I kind of wonder about. And I think history shows most of the time some of the brilliant moves are not dumb luck, but not as orchestrated as one might think.
The one thing I do think that I've noticed that is a little bit different with Bevo, that he is the best at the compat in regards to senior coaching, and that is recognising the people that are working in the program. I think most coaches do it to some extent, but listening to him speak at the Coaches Association dinner when he received the award from his peers, I don't reckon there was one person in the football program that wasn't acknowledged. He acknowledged the sports psych that was working with their players. He acknowledged the medical staff for being able to get Liberatore and McRae up and for putting us in this position. He acknowledged the players themselves for the efforts they've put through. He acknowledged his coaching staff for all the time and energy that they've put into it. I think it's a position of authority that you can come to when you're sitting at the head as the leader of a program that's working, and you've got a choice on that soapbox time that you have on where you spend it. I reckon he spent it as much on his program compared to any other coach that I've ever heard with that opportunity.
The gesture to give the medal to Bob Murphy.
And that reinforces it, doesn't it? This particular moment's remarkably powerful. And it doesn't just last then, it lingers through and it drives through and but not everyone has a figure like Bob Murphy in that situation. But all you can ever do is seize the moments, and Bevo seems to have done that really effectively throughout the course of his 24 months with the Dogs, and that's why they're standing on that dais.
I suspect another moment from the post-match will probably recast the way premiership coaches are treated. His Marcus Bontempelli, I suspect, has ruined it for all of you.
In the air, 3 goals in the ruck. How good was he?
It was enormous.
How's that feel?
We're officially Yanks now.
We're officially...
No, is that what he said? I didn't know.
Yanks. Now.
Yeah, didn't hear that.
Very American.
I'd be flat with Richo. He saw him coming and didn't give anything.
Can I answer another question?
You can.
When you're watching Liam Picken do what he did during the final series, do you think we had him and we haven't got him? Is it our fault? How did this happen? Or do you say, well done, Liam Picken, I'm just really rapt for you as a footballer?
No, well, you're talking about, it's nearly, it was at least 10 years
ago.
I
know how long ago.
Yeah.
I do know how long ago, but he was the son of.
Yeah, no, absolutely he was. He did a pre-season with us, so I think it was either 04 or 05, and he did 2 pre-seasons with the Bulldogs before going and winning a BNF at Williamstown in 2008. I heard Mick say either yesterday or the day before that he really rated Liam Picken.
Why did you start laughing for?
Well, he rated him, but we didn't pick him up. But in the end, you don't get every player, and not every player is ripe at the right time.
No, I know that.
And not every player is.
But how are you feeling?
Even when a player is ripe, they're not right for your group either. But clearly, he's taken a while to come to this. But geez, he's in good form, and he's been a fantastic contributor. Like through the finals, be interesting because I presume that the Dogs will have a best finals player for their 4 games. He'd have to be right up there.
He's going to be close to winning the Gary Ayres medal.
He has to.
Yeah.
I think it's between him and Josh Kennedy from Sydney.
Yeah, of course. I just want to ask you the idea that every man must serve. The Bulldogs used 39 players this year, and the only way they could get through the epidemic of injury was that everyone had to take their turn, fit into the system and try to hold things together. So this was how they looked against everybody else in the competition, with Richmond using the most. But they are now an outlier in terms of a premiership team. It's highly unusual that a team that would sort of be forced to use everybody like that would end up coming through.
Yeah, it's it can help you in some ways, as long as you don't miss players for big chunks. So off the top of my head, 3, 4, 5 players may not have played grand final day that they would have liked to have been in the team. So they got it right at the right time and in really good form. So that bad patch they had the fortnight before the finals was mitigated somewhat because Liberatore came back and McRae came back. So the timing comes into it a bit. But if you can get yourself in a position, a qualifying position that's high enough, having a big group of players contribute actually helps. Because if you've got guys that, say Adelaide were probably at the other end of the scale where they didn't use many players at all, if they had 3 or 4 bad injuries right before the finals, they've got to bring in a couple of players that haven't played all year. That's really tough as well. So it speaks to their depth. It's a credit to them because history in terms of premiership teams doesn't suggest that that's a good idea. But if anything, and I said when I watched them, I thought they're going to be a good team for a long time, and in part it's because of that.
I think that Liberatore was missed 4 or 5 weeks before coming back. Macrae missed 3 or 4. Roughead and Wood. That bye definitely helped them. Came at the right time.
They wouldn't have won the flag without the bye.
Well, yeah, we suspect that, don't we?
Because they wouldn't have got probably all those players up. Anyway, they have,
So, but in the end, you can only ever. What they were able to do was the cards that they were dealt, they handled them as well as they could, and even to the point where when they were dealt against them, they just battled and ground out a few close results or a few close losses, but still didn't lose belief through it, and then were able to build. And really, that last month was exceptional football against the best sides. And Libertor and Macrae they would have been better the second game they were the first, potentially sort of peaking around the prelim, and still Roughead missed the last half of the GWS game, so he's still ready to go. But they made the most of their opportunities.
But the other way of looking at that, and I know Luke Beveridge noted how good a job their conditioning and medical staff did. Those guys came back after big layoffs and played really well.
Yeah.
That's a credit to the individuals. That's outstanding. But the medical and conditioning team have done a super job with those guys.
It's been great to have you all year. It is the best 20 minutes of footy telly, we think, throughout the week. And it's
in Australia.
credit to you for engaging and for sharing the art of coaching, notwithstanding there have been challenging nights.
Absolutely.
So thanks to both of you.
Thanks, guys.